So Mesut Ozil commented on the Uyghur Muslims and their situation. A well-known midfielder from Arsenal, Mesut Ozil, spoke up condemning the treatment of the Uyghur minority, the Uyghur Muslims in China, in Xinjiang region. Ozil is a German of a Turkish origin, spoke up against the persecution of the Muslim minorities in Western Xinjiang. That of a tweet and Instagram post that boomed the internet, and actually many had a mixed reaction. Some supported it and some were against it. Assalamu alaikum guys, I'm Amal and this is New Bayana series, and let's just jump straight to his post that he posted on his Instagram account, and let's read it out. It's a translation from a Turkish language, and I got it in English. It says, "O East Turkestan, the bleeding wound of the Ummah, the community of fighters who resist the persecution, the glorious believers who are fighting alone against those who try to forcibly take them away from Islam. Qurans are burned, mosques are closed, madrasas are banned, religious scholars are killed one by one. The brothers are forced into the camps. Chinese men are settled in their families instead of them. The sisters are forced to marry Chinese men. Despite all this, Ummah of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is silent, doesn't object, say anything. Muslims are not supported. Don't they know that consenting the persecution is persecution itself? How nicely Hadrat Ali radiallahu anhu said, if you cannot prevent persecution, make it known publicly. While these events have been on the agenda even of the Western media and states for months and weeks, where are the Muslim countries and their media? Don't they know that staying neutral when persecution is carried out is despicable? Don't they know that our brothers and sisters will resemble about these sad days years later, not about the torture of tyrants, but the silence us, their Muslim brothers? Oh Allah, help our brothers and sisters in East Turkestan. Undoubtedly, Allah is the best planner." That was a very daring of him to say in such an act. Of course, there were many reactions coming off this post. Arsenal have pulled out their statement saying that he have representing only himself and not the team, and there were quite a big consequences. You see, he has a lot of fan base around China and a lot of Arsenal fans, and when Arsenal distanced themselves from the controversial issue, his football manager on the remark said that it's just a freedom of speech and he just represents himself. And in this point of view, which is not shared by everybody, but only him. But in the response to that, the Chinese broadcast CCTV have pulled out the game that they supposed to cover on Arsenal and Manchester City game. So it wasn't actually sending them, it wasn't like all for money. It was basically sending a message. Whoever stands will face that consequences. And if you speak up, those are the consequences. So, they said that also that the club itself will have big consequences if they don't take any action. So maybe they are expecting an apology post, and they have called other. This wasn't actually the first time. I think there was also one of the NBA players have actually accidentally said this, and their game was taken down as well. Why will the biggest broadband television cancel and punish both of the teams and the clubs, and not show the game while it's particularly concentrated to one specific person? And on their tweet, they said that the speech hurt their feelings of the Chinese fans and violated the sport of the spirit they love and peace. Let me just actually emphasize on this, what actually hurt their feelings, where they actually hurt, despite that. Men are forced in camps, and women are raped and tortured, and men are forced to change their ideology and thinking, and forced basically to be in camps or enslaved or killed or murdered, where their feelings hurt. I mean, based on their fan base, and when people actually stood up and speak for the truth. About 1 million people, mostly from Muslim Uyghur community, are thought to have detained without trial on a high security prison camps. Well, let's talk about hurting the feelings in sports. Well, actually, in my opinion, the athletes who have that sort of vision, and they are in the media, and at times it's not only they represent their sport or their skills or their how good they play, but actually their point of standing of views, and their views matter to public because as well they are with public every time, so their word can go viral, their word can go popular, their thoughts can be everywhere. And while ordinary people like me, maybe I might not be actually that popular on explaining this, but when athletes take a stand on particular area and show that, it's a very daring and very brave act, in my opinion. So this wasn't stopped there. On the recent announcement, they also said that they will be removing his character, Ozil's character, from PES 2020 game, which basically, actually, I'm not a FIFA fan or I'm not a PES fan. I can't recall when the last time I played it, but it kind of doesn't make sense to me. If you remove a character from the PES game or a game itself, and all the people actually have that limited substitutes, right? So how they're gonna replace him, by whom and by what? And if you can't choose that option, will that make that game really I don't know, advanced? Will fans like it?
The Muslim is complicated.
I mean, when their favorite football player is taken out of the game.
I was quite amazed, and I think me and my point of view, football is something very important, but I think footballer have to stay with footballer and politician to politician, because you cannot be involved in these kind of things, because
The reason that they brought up that there is another football star that commented that involving with politics is complicated. Yes, I know politics and regional politics and geopolitics can be a very complicated issue, but when athletes take a stand and athletes show their respond, and athletes are actually brave enough to speak up, and they actually, one of the athletes, Yaya Toure, uh, I get to know his background on his interview about this, that he says that it's complicated. Well, of course, he plays for one of the Chinese football club. He plays for China. He get paid by Chinese, so he had to be saying this. Although it is a very tightening corner where we are putting him, or some where the comments he said, maybe he does not mean it, or maybe he does not reflect on it, but it's not always that complicated when there are people tortured and people abducted, people are forced in camps. This violates a lot of lives, and a lot of their personal views and their religious practices are taken away, and their basic human rights, basically. So I support the athletes who are actually taking a stand and expressing their point of view. So let's keep on this news, and let's review what are the further actions that will be taken. And stay tuned, guys. Thank you for watching. See you at next.